Hi everyone, welcome to the Back 40 Feet, where we talk about suburban, urban, and patio gardening. And today I'm going to talk about squash blossoms. So right here you can see a beautiful squash blossom, and there's a few more under here. So these are male blossoms, and I can tell that because they have this big stem on them. On this zucchini plant you can see a whole bunch of male blossoms, all right here. And male blossoms, they're always on a stem. They do a good job at attracting bees, but they're never going to turn into a squash or a zucchini. But here you can see that this blossom is on the vine and is already starting to turn into a zucchini. So why am I saying any of this? Is because I love eating squash blossoms. You can stuff these, and we'll do that a little later on today, and deep fry them or cook them. And it's just important to know that you might as well use the male blossoms, because except for attracting bees, they're not going to ever yield any fruit. Here are the harvested squash blossoms. So I like to harvest them first thing in the morning before the sun has gotten on them, because then they still stay open like this. And if you harvest them later in the day, they close up, and these are really delicate and will tear. And the other thing I want to show up is in there's a stamen. Maybe I'm not using the right word, but when I go to stuff these, I'm going to remove those because they're just hard and not really adding much value. But here you can see these are zucchini blossoms, and then these are my winter squash blossoms. So they look a little different, but they're still going to taste the same. I'm going to get ready to stuff the squash blossoms. And when I take them, I always take a little look inside just to make sure that there's no little bugs in there. That's what these bud and blossoms are supposed to be doing, is attracting pollinators. So sometimes you might get like a little ant or a cucumber beetle in there. When I harvest them, I always give them a good little shake before I bring them in the house, just to make sure that there's no bugs. So as I said, we need to get rid of that stamen, and you could just do that by plucking them out like that. And what I have here is my filling. This is just ricotta and some Parmesan cheese, garlic, chives, pepper, and parsley. But really, if you can do whatever you want for a filling, you can make it up. Any ravioli filling will work great with these. So I'm going to take the filling and put it into just my bag here that I'm going to use as a pastry bag. This is just an all-purpose sandwich bag. Start with that. Okay. Snip off the end. I'm going to make it pretty wide because I don't need to be very delicate with the squash blossoms. And really anything that you have that you can use for piping, if you already have something that you use for cake frosting or whatever, but this works pretty well. So now I have it all set up, and I'm just gonna fill the squash blossom. Like that. And then once it's filled, I'm just going to lightly put the leaves around it. I'm not going to really need to worry about that too much, because these are going to wilt now that I've picked them. And I'm doing this right after I've picked them. I'm not going to cook them right now, but if I try to do this later, it's just going to be a mess. When I go to cook them, I'm going to take the stem off. Although sometimes it might be a little easier when you're manipulating these to use the stem, but there's no reason to cook them. And then I'm just going to put it here on a tray with wax paper and put it in the fridge. For the winter squash blossoms, which are much more open, let's get that little guy out of there. Takes a little bit more coaxing. I'm going to go all the way down one leaf like that, and then just let it fall on itself. And this is definitely going to collapse on itself, so I'm not too worried. And I'm not going to let them touch each other because then it's just going to be one big mess. So I'm just going to continue, and these are all set. I have 7 squash blossoms, nicely stuffed, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator with just a little bit of saran wrap just to keep some of the humidity in before I fry these up later tonight. These squash blossoms have been in the refrigerator all day. I had a little bit of saran wrap on them, and they are looking pretty good. You can see that they're a lot limper than when I had stuffed them. So what I'm going to do is sort of like close the gap a little bit before I put them in some hot oil and fry these up and serve them with a little bit of marinara. I don't have a fry later. If you do, that's the easiest way probably to fry these. I'm just going to use a deep pan and some oil. It's just frying up the zucchini blossoms, and I'm only going to get just a slight crisp around the sides, so you can see that it's starting to get a little brown. So I'll turn them over, and they really only take about 30 seconds. And there are the blossoms all fried up, and a little bit of marinara on it, and a Greek salad on the side with sun gold tomatoes and cucumbers from the garden.